Hey everyone, this is Anam. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be discussing the summary of lesson number 5, Footprints Without Feet, from the supplementary reader of class 10. The chapter Footprints Without Feet is taken from the novel The Invisible Man, written by H.G. Wells. This is the story of a scientist, Griffin, who has invented a drug which could make a man's body invisible. But he misuses this power. The chapter describes the misdeeds of Griffin and the numerous ways in which he causes trouble to others. Let us now discuss about the theme of the chapter. The story is based on the theme that power without responsibility can be disastrous. The power of invisibility comes to a selfish and ill-tempered scientist who misuses it and troubles everyone. The story develops the idea that science can give immense potential to man, but it should be used for the good of society and not for the benefit of any specific individual. The lead character of the story is a scientist. His name is Griffin. Griffin is a brilliant scientist who carries out endless experiments to discover the formula of invisibility. He develops a rare drug which could make a person invisible. But Griffin is a lawless person. So he misuses his power to scare and rob people. These evil aspects of his character make him a villain. So basically, Griffin is not the hero. He is in fact a villain. The story starts when two boys were surprised to see fresh muddy imprints of a pair of feet in a street in London. The boys could see the footprints but not the person leaving them on the road. So the boys followed the footprints till the muddy impressions grew fainter and eventually disappeared. The boys were astonished to see this. Now you must have understood that Griffin, the scientist who had discovered the rare drug which could make a person invisible, was leaving those footprints. And it is to be noted that he could only go invisible when he took off all his clothes. Griffin was a brilliant scientist, but he was a lawless person. His landlord did not like him and wanted to get rid of him. To take revenge, Griffin set fire to the house. He then took the drug to go invisible. He took off all his clothes. He undressed himself and became transparent. He became invisible. He then rushed out of the house to escape being caught. So you can see Griffin had a bad temper. Just to take revenge, he set his landlord's house on fire and then he ran. He was now wandering on the streets of London without any clothes or money, invisible and transparent. But it was mid-January and the weather was extremely cold. In order to escape the cold, he walked into a big store. After the store was closed in the night, he dressed himself fully by taking all that he liked from the shop, by breaking the boxes and wrappers. He then enjoyed his meal with sweets and wine that he had stolen from the grocery shop. After that, he slept on a heap of quilts to keep himself warm. Next morning, he got up late after the arrival of store employees. On seeing the employees, Griffin ran out and removed all his clothes one by one, and again he became invisible. He again escaped successfully. But without any clothes, he was again exposed to the bitter cold. So he rushed down to the Drury Lane, the hub of London's theatre world, to get some clothes from a theatre company that would cover up his face. He entered a shop, went upstairs, and soon came back with a bandaged face and forehead. Obviously, he did not want to reveal his identity, so he covered his face with a bandage. He was also wearing large glasses, whiskers, and a false nose to give his invisible face a shape. He was also wearing a large hat to cover his head. In order to get money, he attacked the shopkeeper from behind and took all his money, and then he escaped. Griffin wanted to avoid the London crowd, so he boarded a train to a village called Iping. He went to an inn, a local inn, and rent 2 rooms. Soon, his strange and uncommon appearance made him the talk of villagers. Mrs. Hall, the landlady of the inn, tried to be friendly with him, but he brushed her aside by telling that he wanted to be left alone and he had a lot of work to do. He also told her that he had recently suffered an accident and did not want to be disturbed. Mrs. Hall, the landlady of the inn, did not bother much about her strange guest after that, as he had paid her money in advance. She left him alone, believing that he was a strange fellow with a bad temper. However, very soon, Griffin ran out of the money that he had stolen in London, but extended his stay in the inn by telling Mrs. Hall that he was expecting a check any time. So obviously he was telling a lie because he wasn't expecting any kind of check. He only wanted to extend his stay. One day, Griffin went to steal some money from the clergyman's house. Clergyman means a person who looks after the church. Father of the church is called clergyman. So he went there to pay off his rent to steal money from clergyman's house. Very early in the morning, the clergyman of the village and his wife heard some noise and chink of money coming from their study. The clergyman picked up a rod to guard himself and ordered the intruder to surrender. However, to his surprise, he found the room empty. The clergyman and his wife both searched everywhere but did not find anyone in the room. Surprisingly, their desk had been opened and there was no money in it. Meanwhile, the owners of the inn, Mrs. Hall and her husband, were early risers. They were surprised to find the door of Griffin's room wide open. Usually, it used to remain locked and bolted all the time. If someone tried to enter his room, Griffin would lose his temper. He would get very angry. But when Mrs. Hall and her husband saw the door open, they got curious and entered his room to investigate. They found that the bedsheet was cold, which suggested that the bed had not been used for quite some time. Griffin's clothes and bandages were laying scattering all over the room. Suddenly, there was a movement and Mrs. Hall heard something pass by her ear. All of a sudden, the hat on the bedpost sprang in the air and hit Mrs. Hall on her face. Then the chair flung towards her. She and her husband ran out of the room in panic, and the door behind them suddenly shut with a bang. They were terrified. Mrs. Hall was certain that some spirit was haunting the room. The news spread very fast, and the villagers suspected that the strange scientist was the culprit and some magic was involved in the act, in this affair. Suspicion about the theft at the clergyman's house also fell on the scientist as he had just paid his entire dues in cash. He had just paid his rent in cash. The village constable was informed about the matter, but Mrs. Hall did not wait for his arrival. She decided to confront him. She rushed into Griffin's room and demanded an explanation from him about the moving chair. She also asked him to explain how he had suddenly sprung out of the empty room, how he had suddenly, how he was suddenly there in the empty room, but nobody was there just a few minutes ago. This made Griffin very angry. By then, all the villagers had also gathered there to confront him. In order to escape, Griffin suddenly removed the bandage and false nose from his face. This shocked the villagers. They were stunned to see a headless man. As you can see in the picture, as he was removing the bandages from his head and face, he was going invisible. Jaffers, the constable, came there with an arrest warrant in his hands and tried to arrest the headless body. However, he could not do so because the scientist had removed all his clothes as well and had thus become fully invisible. All efforts of the constable to catch the invisible man failed. Whoever tried to help him in catching Griffin received blows from the air. The constable fell down unconscious and nobody could catch Griffin, who escaped, taking advantage of his invisibility. So this is where the story ends. Through the story, Footprints Without Feet, the writer wants to convey the message that power should always be given to the responsible ones. Griffin gets the power and he starts misusing it. So basically, the writer wants to say that scientists can make our life easier and better with the help of their inventions, but if these intelligent minds fall on the destructive path, the damage caused would be immense. So this is what the message is. If you like the video, if you found the video useful, then please subscribe to my channel and you can also leave your comments. Thank you.